Welcome to Zen Calm. Today, we're diving deep into a question at the very heart of our existence. How can we love someone purely? In a world filled with conditions, expectations, and comparisons, the idea of pure, unconditional love can feel distant, almost unreachable. But imagine a love that expects nothing in return, a kindness that flows freely, unattached and unconditioned by the world. This form of love is the foundation of Buddhist philosophy, a guiding light that shows us how to live with peace and compassion. Before we begin, if you feel inspired by this journey of mindfulness, kindness, and compassion, take a moment to subscribe to Zen Calm. Joining us means becoming part of a community dedicated to living more peacefully and understanding ourselves more deeply. And stay with us till the end, where we'll dive into an insightful Q&A, a heartfelt question from a viewer who asked, how do we truly love someone unconditionally, even with their imperfections? Together, we'll explore the wisdom that can help answer this timeless question. To begin, I'd like to share a profound teaching from the Vietnamese Zen master, Thich Nhat Hanh. To love without knowing how to love wounds the person we love. This quote leads us to the essence of Buddhist wisdom on love, that true love must be pure, selfless, and unconditionally kind. Today, we'll explore what it means to love purely, in a way that brings peace to ourselves and those around us. So, let's first look at a critical distinction in Buddhism: the difference between conditional love and unconditional love. It's in our nature to love with conditions, but there is a deeper, purer way. In our daily lives, we often enter relationships with expectations. These might be small or subtle, but they're often there, shaping how we interact with others. We might think, if you're kind to me, I'll be kind to you. Or, if you show me love, only then will I return it. This mindset, so ingrained in many of us, is what Buddhism refers to as transactional or conditional love. It's based on an implicit exchange where kindness and affection become a form of currency, given only when returned. This kind of love, conditional love, creates a cycle of attachment. When we love conditionally, we're essentially forming bonds with the expectation that the other person will fulfill certain needs or desires of ours. We start depending on them for our happiness, and when that love isn't reciprocated, or when they fail to meet our expectations, we're left feeling disappointed or even resentful. This is because we've made our happiness contingent on something external, something inherently impermanent. To illustrate, imagine you have a friend who you feel very close to, but the closeness you feel hinges on how much attention they give you in return. If they're too busy or their focus shifts, you might feel neglected, frustrated, or even hurt. The joy that the relationship once brought becomes a source of pain because of the attachment to how they should be, rather than allowing them to be as they are. This is the natural cycle of conditional love, an endless loop of hope, dependence, and often disillusionment. Buddhist teachings, however, offer us a way to break free from this cycle. The Buddha spoke of a form of love that is boundless, unattached, and not tethered by expectations. In Buddhism, true love is not something that is received in exchange for meeting conditions. Rather, it's something expansive and generous, emerging from a deep and already complete space within us. When love flows from this place, it is impartial and not bound by limitations or needs. To use an analogy, pure love is like the vastness of the ocean. It's open and endless, holding all things without distinction. The ocean does not discriminate between the rivers that flow into it. nor does it restrict how far its waters can reach. Similarly, pure love is impartial and available to all, without discrimination or judgment. This love is an inner resource that grows the more it's shared. To cultivate this boundless love, we must begin with ourselves. A powerful teaching from the Buddha states, "You, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." This teaching reminds us that the origin of true love is within, not dependent on others or on external validation. When we understand and practice self-love without condition, we open the door to loving others in the same way. Imagine that every day you practice kindness and compassion toward yourself, just as you would toward a dear friend. You learn to accept yourself completely, with all your imperfections and qualities, without needing to earn your own love. In doing so, you are building the capacity to love others in the same accepting, gentle way. When we're at peace with ourselves, love flows more naturally toward others. Self-love isn't selfish. It's the foundation upon which unconditional love is built. When we cultivate compassion toward ourselves, we stop seeking validation externally. We're no longer depending on others to fulfill us, because we recognize that we are already complete. This inner security helps us to let go of attachments and expectations in our relationships. To further explain, let's consider an example. Think about a time you did something kind for a stranger, like helping them with directions or holding a door open. You likely felt a sense of joy from the act itself, rather than expecting anything in return. This simple action is a small glimpse into the nature of unconditional love. Kindness given freely, not for reward or acknowledgement. The more we can expand this feeling to our close relationships, the more we are practicing pure love. For many of us, the concept of loving without conditions seems daunting, especially if we've experienced pain, betrayal, or neglect. We might think, how can I open my heart without setting some boundaries for my own protection? But here's the key. Unconditional love doesn't mean allowing harm or disregarding our well-being. It simply means that the love we feel does not come with requirements or dependencies. When I first explored these teachings, it felt impossible to love without condition. I worried that loving in this way might make me vulnerable. But over time, I learned that unconditional love isn't passive or naive. It's an empowered state of being where we choose love, not because of what we gain, but because it feels like our truest self-expression. This kind of love holds boundaries, not out of fear or control, but out of respect for both ourselves and others. Start with self-compassion. Begin by practicing kindness toward yourself. Notice any inner criticism and replace it with gentle encouragement. Self-love is the seed from which pure love grows. Reflect on expectations. In your relationships, ask yourself if there are any unspoken expectations you hold. Are you expecting something in return for your kindness? If so, try to let go of that expectation and simply give for the joy of giving. Practice loving kindness meditation. Metta. In Metta meditation, extend thoughts of love and kindness to yourself, loved ones, acquaintances, and even those you find difficult. Repeat phrases like, "May you be happy," "May you be healthy," "May you be safe." This practice gradually expands your capacity for unconditional love by helping you foster goodwill without attachment. As we explore the distinction between conditional and unconditional love, we can see that true love in Buddhism is not about gaining or possessing, but about releasing and allowing. This love is a path of freedom, where our joy comes not from what others do for us, but from what we freely give. This brings us to the Buddha's teaching on universal compassion, a concept that helps us transcend personal biases and attachments. In Buddhism, the practice of metta, or loving kindness, is a powerful tool for expanding compassion beyond the usual boundaries of family, friends, or those we already care about. It's an invitation to cultivate goodwill for all beings, those we hold close, those we may find challenging, and even those we may consider our adversaries. Metta allows us to soften the edges of our biases and see each being as worthy of kindness and understanding. The practice of metta begins with a simple intention: to foster an authentic sense of love and compassion within ourselves that radiates outward. Through metta, we are encouraged to develop a care for others that is not contingent upon how they treat us, how well we know them, or even how we feel about them personally. This compassion is boundless, extending to everyone, regardless of their actions or our past interactions. To help us understand metta, the Buddha used the example of a mother's love for her child. A mother loves her only child unconditionally and would protect them with her life if necessary. Just as a mother loves her child without reservation, we too can develop this kind of love for all beings. It's not easy. In fact, it's one of the most challenging aspects of spiritual practice. But with time and dedication, we begin to see that this love is more natural and fulfilling than a love bound by conditions and limitations. Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Zen master, once said, "Understanding is love's other name. If you don't understand, you can't love." This teaching reminds us that when we seek to understand the experiences and struggles of others, even those who challenge us, our love for them can grow in a way that is rooted in empathy and compassion, rather than judgment or distance. One of the most profound ways to practice metta is through a form of meditation known as metta bhavana, or loving kindness meditation. This meditation guides us to extend thoughts of well-being and happiness to ourselves, loved ones, acquaintances, and eventually all beings, including those we find difficult to love. One foundational prayer in metta meditation is, "May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering." These words are more than just a mantra. They are an intention, a calling to shift our view of others from self-centeredness to universal connectedness. By repeating these words, we train our minds to focus on the well-being of all. Metta meditation slowly loosens the grip of resentment, frustration, and anger, allowing a gentler, more compassionate perspective to take root. Here's a simple way to start metta meditation. Start with yourself. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and wish yourself happiness, health, and peace. Repeat, "May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I be at peace." Extend to loved ones. Once you feel settled, bring to mind someone you love and wish them the same. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you be at peace. Extend to acquaintances. Gradually expand this intention to those you know, but don't necessarily feel strongly about. Extend to challenging people. Now, think of someone who has caused you pain or who you find difficult. It may feel challenging, but try to genuinely wish them peace and happiness. Extend to all beings. Finally, extend your love outward to all beings. May all beings everywhere be happy. May they be healthy. May they be safe. May they be at peace. This meditation gently transforms our attitude, training us to approach others with an open heart and a willingness to understand rather than judge. When I first encountered this teaching, I felt it would be almost impossible. How could I genuinely wish happiness for everyone, including those who had caused me pain? But as I practiced, I realized that this isn't about suppressing my natural feelings. Rather, it's about allowing my capacity for kindness to grow. With each meditation, I felt more open, even to those I had once felt hurt by. In my early experiences with Metta meditation, I found myself struggling the most with sending kind wishes to those I felt had wronged me. The resistance felt almost physical, a tension that reminded me of old grievances and wounds. But as I continued the practice, something shifted. I realized that the meditation wasn't asking me to forget my feelings or suppress my pain. Instead, it was guiding me to expand my capacity for compassion, to recognize that even those who hurt me were, in their own ways, struggling and deserving of peace. This was a liberating moment. I wasn't being asked to approve of anyone's harmful actions or disregard my boundaries. Rather, Metta allowed me to release the hold of resentment, to soften the hardness around my heart, and to let go of the weight of anger. Each time I practiced, it became a little easier, and over time, I found myself holding a greater sense of inner peace. The Buddha said, "Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule." This profound statement underscores the purpose of Metta. In showing compassion, even to those who challenge us, we break the cycle of resentment and transform it into a source of healing. Metta teaches us that love is not confined to romantic or familial relationships. It is a limitless source that flows outward, touching everyone in its path. When we practice Metta, we are reminded that every being, no matter how different or distant, is seeking the same fundamental things: happiness, safety, and peace. Consider, for example, a moment when someone you care about hurt your feelings. Perhaps they were harsh, dismissive, or inattentive. Practicing Metta doesn't deny the pain of their actions, but it helps us to see beyond them. We can recognize that their behavior may be a reflection of their own struggles or insecurities. Metta opens our hearts, allowing us to respond with understanding instead of adding more pain by harboring resentment. Over time, I found that practicing Metta allowed me to understand others' suffering without needing to justify or excuse their behavior. This understanding led to a deep inner freedom, where my happiness was no longer held hostage by someone else's actions. Practical tips for integrating Metta into daily life. Start small. Practicing Metta doesn't require hours of meditation each day. Begin with a few minutes, focusing on wishing peace for yourself, and then gradually extending that wish to others. Use daily encounters as opportunities. When you interact with others, whether it's the barista serving you coffee, a colleague, or even a stranger on the street, silently wish them well. A simple, "May you be happy" in your mind can start to transform how you view others. Recognize resistance and stay compassionate. If you feel resistance when practicing Metta, especially toward challenging people, don't be discouraged. Treat this resistance with compassion and allow it to be part of your journey. Practicing Metta moves us beyond the limitations of conditional love, bringing us closer to a universal compassion that includes all beings. As we practice, we find that the more we wish well for others, the greater our own sense of peace and joy. Through Metta, we are planting the seeds of boundless love that benefit everyone, including ourselves. But how do we bring this universal love into our daily lives? The answer lies in mindfulness and small, consistent practices. Buddhist teachings emphasize that love and kindness are not just abstract ideals, but are meant to be practiced daily, grounding them in tangible actions and intentions. By integrating these principles into our everyday routines, we gradually cultivate a mindset of love and compassion that influences how we relate to ourselves and others. One of the simplest and most profound ways to practice unconditional love daily is through a morning meditation. This practice takes only a few minutes, but it sets the tone for the entire day. As you wake up, before reaching for your phone or mentally running through your to-do list, find a quiet moment to sit with yourself. Close your eyes and take a breath. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and take a deep, calming breath. Allow yourself to be fully present, letting go of any worries or distractions. Set your intention. Silently repeat to yourself, "May everyone in this world be well and happy. May my friends be happy. May even my enemies find peace." These words may seem simple, but they carry a powerful intention that transforms your mindset into one of openness and compassion. With this meditation, you're not only wishing well for yourself, but extending that goodwill to all beings. This practice has a profound impact on how we perceive and react to others. When we begin our day with compassion in mind, our interactions, whether they're with loved ones, strangers, or people we may find difficult, are approached with more patience and kindness. This is the beginning of practicing unconditional love, choosing to be compassionate, regardless of how others may act or what they may say. Zen master Shunryu Suzuki once said, "The most important thing is to find out what is the most important thing." This teaching reminds us that love and kindness are the central values that give our lives meaning. By making compassion our daily focus, everything else, anger, frustration, resentment, can fade into the background, making way for peace and understanding. When we begin each morning with the intention to spread love without conditions, we prepare ourselves to face the world with an open and resilient heart. Whether our day is filled with familiar faces, difficult people, or complete strangers, this intention sets us up for interactions that are grounded in kindness and empathy. For example, imagine encountering a stranger who is rude or dismissive. If we are rooted in our morning intention of compassion, rather than responding with irritation, we may find ourselves responding with patience or even wishing them well in our minds. This doesn't mean accepting negative behavior without boundaries, but recognizing that everyone carries their own struggles. By choosing compassion in these moments, we are embodying unconditional love and allowing each interaction to reflect our deeper values. As I began to incorporate this practice, I noticed a shift in my relationships, not just with others, but with myself. On days when I set this compassionate intention, I felt calmer and less reactive. My focus shifted from what others could do for me to what I could share with them, making even challenging encounters opportunities for growth and kindness. Practicing unconditional love daily not only changes our inner landscape, but also has a ripple effect on the environment around us. When we respond to people with kindness rather than frustration, we're likely to inspire a similar reaction in them. Compassion has a magnetic quality. It draws out the best in others. Imagine starting your morning with the thought, "May everyone in this world be well and happy." As you interact with people throughout your day, you carry this sentiment with you, shaping each interaction. A kind word here, a patient gesture there. These small acts create an atmosphere of warmth and connection. Over time, the people around you, influenced by your kindness, may begin to reflect that same compassion back to you. Practical tips for cultivating unconditional love. Daily practice. Gratitude. Before bed, think of 3 moments from your day that brought you joy or taught you something valuable. This practice helps reinforce a positive, loving mindset, reminding you that each day holds opportunities for kindness. Express appreciation. Take a moment to thank someone, even for small acts. Recognizing the good in others fosters a natural sense of connection and reduces feelings of resentment or isolation. Use triggers as reminders. Choose an activity you do often, such as washing your hands, drinking water, or walking, and use it as a cue to silently wish others well. Each time you perform this action, think, "May all beings be happy." This builds a habit of extending love without needing a specific reason. Journal your experiences. Reflect on your daily acts of compassion and how they affected your interactions. Writing down these experiences helps you become more aware of how unconditional love can shape your life and relationships. In practicing unconditional love daily, we align our intentions and actions with the values we wish to embody. Each morning, we have the opportunity to set a foundation of compassion, creating a ripple effect that not only enriches our lives, but touches the lives of those around us. Now let's look at a story that illustrates the transformative power of practicing unconditional love. In the ancient villages of India, tales of extraordinary monks who embodied deep compassion and kindness were not uncommon. These monks, through years of meditation and self-discipline, cultivated metta, unconditional loving kindness, that radiated from them and transformed those around them. Among these was a renowned monk whose dedication to metta meditation was so profound that people could feel his compassion simply by being near him. He embodied love in its purest form, offering kindness without condition, judgment, or expectation. One day, as this monk was walking through a village, a man noticed him and began shouting insults. The man, known in the village for his short temper, wanted to provoke a reaction. Perhaps he saw the monk's calm demeanor as an opportunity to challenge someone he thought might be weak or submissive. His words grew louder and harsher, filled with accusations and anger. But the monk, instead of responding with anger or trying to defend himself, remained perfectly calm. He simply looked at the man with compassion in his eyes and said gently, "May you be well and happy." The simplicity of these words startled the man, who had expected the monk to become defensive or retaliate. Confused and surprised, he asked, "Why didn't you respond with anger? Why don't you defend yourself or insult me back?" The monk's response was equally calm and profound. "Why should I respond with anger? Your words are yours to keep. My love for all beings, including you, is my practice." This encounter is more than just a story of kindness. It illustrates a transformative power that lies in the practice of unconditional love. The monk's response shows us that love, when practiced without conditions or attachment, becomes an inner source of strength that external circumstances cannot shake. By choosing compassion over anger, the monk not only maintained his inner peace, but also disrupted the cycle of hostility. In this moment, he didn't allow the man's negativity to disturb him or dictate his emotions. Reflective insight. In our daily lives, we often encounter people who, intentionally or not, challenge our sense of peace. They may provoke us with words, actions, or even subtle judgments. It's natural to feel defensive or hurt. But what if we, like the monk, could respond with compassion instead of anger? The monk's example teaches us that when we remain grounded in love, we don't need external validation. Our strength comes from within. The monk's ability to stay calm was not a result of weakness or submission, but rather an expression of his inner freedom. Through years of practicing metta, he cultivated a mind that was no longer enslaved by the opinions or actions of others. This story reveals an essential truth about compassion. True, unconditional love is a wellspring that does not rely on outside circumstances. It's rooted in an inner peace that cannot be taken away, no matter what others may say or do. Imagine how differently our lives would feel if we could respond to negativity with this level of calmness. Often, we allow others' actions or words to control our emotions, almost as if we're giving them the power to dictate our feelings. When we get angry or defensive, we're letting them disrupt our peace. But in practicing compassion as the monk did, we create a buffer between ourselves and others' negativity. By doing so, we retain control over our own inner state. The Buddha taught, "You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger." This teaching reminds us that anger and resentment harm us more than anyone else. The monk chose to avoid anger, not to let the man off the hook, but to protect his own peace and prevent harm to himself. What the monk demonstrated is something that each of us can practice in our own lives. The next time someone says something hurtful or offensive, take a moment before reacting. Breathe deeply and remember the monk's words. Your words are yours to keep. My love for all beings, including you, is my practice. By reframing the situation this way, you're reminded that you don't need to catch or accept the negativity someone is throwing at you. Instead, you can let it go, like a cloud passing through the sky, without it affecting your sense of self-worth or peace. Pause and reflect. When faced with negativity, pause before responding. Notice any tension in your body and breathe into it. A moment of reflection can prevent an impulsive reaction that may only escalate the situation. Set an inner intention. In your mind, set an intention to respond from a place of love rather than defensiveness. Remember that kindness does not make you weak. It demonstrates emotional strength. Respond, don't react. Responding means choosing how to act, while reacting often means letting emotions control you. If you choose to respond, even a simple "I understand" can diffuse tension. Personal insight. The first time I tried this, I was skeptical. I thought, how can I just choose love in the face of someone's hurtful words? But as I practiced pausing and breathing, I found that I could choose how much power I wanted to give their words. I started feeling more peaceful and less affected by others' negativity, realizing that my response was my own choice. The monk's compassionate response not only protected his peace, but also created a ripple effect of transformation. By choosing love instead of anger, he planted a seed of curiosity and reflection in the man who insulted him. This man, initially driven by hostility, left the encounter with a sense of surprise and perhaps a bit of introspection. The monk's response challenged his assumptions, prompting him to consider that there could be another way to handle conflict, through peace rather than aggression. This story reminds us that our actions, especially compassionate ones, influence others more than we might realize. By responding with love, we can create moments of reflection and inspire change, even in those who challenge us. Compassion, in this way, becomes a subtle yet powerful tool for influencing the world around us. Reflective insight. Compassion isn't just for others, it's for ourselves. The monk's decision to hold on to love wasn't only for the man's benefit, it was for his own inner peace. When we choose compassion, we give ourselves the gift of freedom from resentment, anger, and inner turmoil. The monk's story teaches us that practicing unconditional love doesn't mean tolerating harmful behavior or ignoring our boundaries. It means choosing not to allow others' actions to disrupt our peace. It's about reclaiming the power to decide how we want to feel and respond, independent of external situations. Next time you feel hurt or challenged, remember this monk's example. Ask yourself, can I respond with love at this moment? Can I choose compassion over anger? While it may not be easy, every effort to respond with kindness strengthens our resilience and deepens our sense of inner peace. The monk's example shows us that true strength lies in compassion. By holding on to love even in difficult moments, we liberate ourselves from the cycle of anger and transform the world around us. In choosing compassion, we become unshakable in our peace, no longer affected by the actions or words of others. This story brings us to another essential concept in Buddhism: overcoming the ego to experience pure love. In Buddhist teachings, the ego is often seen as one of the greatest obstacles to experiencing pure, unconditional love. The ego, with its constant need for validation, recognition, and superiority, traps us in a cycle of comparison, judgment, and expectation. It convinces us that we must be better than, or right, in relation to others, subtly building walls that distance us from authentic connection. But to cultivate pure love, Buddhism teaches that we must move beyond these ego-driven tendencies and embrace a selflessness that allows us to truly connect with others. The ego operates on a principle of separation, encouraging us to see ourselves as distinct and isolated from others. It fuels a sense of I and mine, reinforcing the idea that our worth is dependent on how we measure up against others. This constant striving for superiority or validation keeps us in a loop of dissatisfaction, as we are always looking outward to affirm our value. In contrast, pure love, as described in Buddhism, emerges when we dissolve these boundaries and view ourselves and others as interconnected. Pure love does not require us to be better or more deserving than others. Instead, it invites us to recognize the shared humanity within all of us. A Zen teaching beautifully captures this idea. You cannot pour more tea into a cup that is already full. This wisdom urges us to empty ourselves of pride, anger, and prejudice, making room for compassion to flow. When our minds are cluttered with ego-driven thoughts and judgments, there is no space for empathy or kindness to enter. The journey to pure love often involves releasing old resentments and seeing beyond the self. It means recognizing that we, too, are human and capable of error, just as those we might judge. Letting go of the ego's hold allows us to experience a fuller, truer connection with others. In my own life, I've noticed that my ego often rises when I feel wronged or slighted, tempting me to judge others harshly or view myself as the victim. However, as I practiced letting go of these judgments, I realized that each person, including myself, is walking their own path, shaped by unique struggles and imperfections. When I stopped viewing others as adversaries or obstacles to my happiness, a shift occurred. I could see people more fully, with their own vulnerabilities and insecurities. This realization deepened my compassion and allowed me to experience a more genuine connection to others. Buddhism encourages us to empty ourselves, not in a literal sense, but in a metaphorical one, letting go of pride, anger, and prejudice that block our capacity for compassion. This process doesn't happen overnight, but rather through a conscious practice of humility and self-awareness. Here are some practical steps to begin this journey. Recognize the ego's triggers. Notice when the ego tries to take control, whether it's in moments of conflict, when receiving criticism, or when comparing yourself to others. Acknowledge these triggers without judgment, understanding that the ego is simply a habit that can be unlearned. Practice humility. Humility isn't about devaluing yourself. It's about understanding that we all have strengths and weaknesses. In each interaction, remind yourself that everyone has their own wisdom and perspective. This helps to soften the ego's need to be right or superior. Shift from judgment to curiosity. When the ego prompts you to judge, try shifting to curiosity instead. Ask yourself, why might this person think or act this way? This simple practice opens the door to empathy, replacing judgment with understanding. Embrace vulnerability. Part of letting go of the ego is acknowledging our own vulnerabilities. When we accept our imperfections, we can relate to others on a deeper level, without the need to maintain a facade of perfection or superiority. Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Zen master, once said, "To love without knowing how to love wounds the person we love." This wisdom teaches us that true love, when clouded by ego or possessiveness, can harm rather than help. When we approach love with humility and a willingness to let go of control, we offer a love that is free, gentle, and healing. When we let go of the ego, our relationships naturally deepen. Without the need to prove ourselves, defend our viewpoints, or be better, we're able to listen and connect with others in a more open and meaningful way. For example, in a disagreement, the ego often seeks to win or come out on top, which can escalate conflict. But if we approach the conversation from a place of understanding and mutual respect, we foster a space where both parties feel heard and valued. Consider how letting go of ego can transform the way we view close relationships. Instead of expecting our loved ones to fulfill specific roles or validate our worth, we begin to appreciate them as individuals with their own paths, free from our projections. This shift allows love to flourish in its purest form, built on acceptance rather than expectation. Over time, I found that by letting go of ego-driven expectations in my relationships, I could appreciate people more deeply. I no longer needed them to be a certain way or act in ways that confirmed my worth. This allowed me to see them as they truly were and to love them for who they were, rather than for what they could provide for me. Daily self-reflection. At the end of each day, reflect on moments where the ego may have influenced your actions or thoughts. Write these moments down and consider how you might respond differently from a place of selflessness and compassion. Gratitude practice. Cultivating gratitude softens the ego by helping us recognize the contributions of others. Make it a habit to express genuine thanks, both silently and aloud, to those who positively impact your life, even in small ways. Mindful breathing in conflict. If you feel the ego rising in moments of tension or conflict, take 3 deep breaths before responding. This simple pause creates space for you to step out of ego-driven reactions and respond from a more centered, compassionate place. Volunteer or serve others. Engaging in selfless acts of service is a powerful way to transcend the ego. When we give our time or resources without expecting anything in return, we experience a kind of fulfillment that is independent of personal gain. In moving beyond the ego, we discover a path to deeper, purer love. When we let go of the need to control, judge, or be validated, we create space for a love that connects rather than separates. This kind of love is boundless, allowing us to see others and ourselves with true compassion. One of the most challenging yet rewarding aspects of unconditional love is the practice of forgiveness. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as a passive act or a sign of weakness. However, in Buddhism, forgiveness is one of the most profound practices for personal liberation and peace. It's not about condoning harmful actions or excusing what others may have done to hurt us. Instead, forgiveness in Buddhism is an active choice to free ourselves from the weight of anger and resentment, emotions that ultimately harm us more than anyone else. By letting go of these toxic emotions, we open the door to peace, compassion, and a more meaningful way of loving. When we hold on to anger, bitterness, or resentment, we are, in essence, binding ourselves to the person or event that caused us pain. These emotions don't hurt the other person nearly as much as they hurt us, keeping us trapped in a cycle of negative feelings. The Buddha emphasized this point with a powerful analogy. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. This teaching is a reminder that when we cling to anger, it is we who suffer. Forgiveness, therefore, is an act of self-compassion. It's a way of freeing ourselves from the burden of resentment and allowing space for peace to grow. Rather than being an act we do for someone else, forgiveness is something we do for ourselves, choosing to release the pain and move forward with a lighter heart. When I first began practicing forgiveness, I found it incredibly challenging. I wanted justice, validation, or at least an apology for the wrongs I had endured. But as I held on to these feelings, I noticed that they consumed more of my energy than the original hurt itself. Slowly, I realized that forgiveness wasn't about the other person at all. It was about liberating myself. I learned that by releasing my need for an apology, I could finally find peace. In my experience, forgiveness is not a single act, but a process. It requires us to shift our focus from what someone should have done or said to our own healing. Each time we let go of a small resentment, we practice lightening our emotional load. Over time, this habit grows, allowing us to release even deeper grievances that we once thought we could never forgive. Forgiveness doesn't happen overnight, especially when it comes to deep wounds. However, by practicing forgiveness gradually, we train our hearts to let go, bit by bit, of the anger and pain that no longer serves us. Here are some steps to help guide this practice. Start small with minor offenses. Begin by forgiving small grievances in your daily life. If someone cuts you off in traffic, takes credit for your idea, or forgets an appointment, use these moments as opportunities to practice letting go. By forgiving minor offenses, you build resilience and compassion, laying the groundwork for forgiving larger hurts. Use a forgiveness meditation. In a quiet moment, sit comfortably, close your eyes, and take a few deep breaths. Bring to mind someone you want to forgive, and visualize them as clearly as you can. Silently say, "I forgive you, and I release this pain. May you be happy. May you be at peace." You might not feel instant relief, But each time you repeat this meditation, you weaken the hold of resentment and strengthen your capacity for peace. Write a forgiveness letter. For deeper wounds, try writing a letter to the person who hurt you. Describe your feelings and the impact of their actions, but also express your decision to forgive and let go. You don't need to send the letter. Its purpose is to allow you to acknowledge and release your emotions in a safe space. Practice self-forgiveness. Often, the hardest person to forgive is ourselves. Recognize moments when you feel regret or self-judgment and remind yourself that, like everyone else, you're a human capable of mistakes. Practicing self-forgiveness not only heals past wounds, but also strengthens your ability to forgive others. The Dalai Lama once said, "Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It means remembering and letting go of your anger." This perspective helps us understand that forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It simply releases its grip on our present. Forgiveness has a transformative effect, not only on our emotional state, but also on our relationships and sense of self. When we forgive, we free ourselves from the need to carry the past into the present. This release creates space within, allowing compassion, understanding, and love to grow. Imagine a friendship in which you experienced a disagreement or felt let down. If you choose to forgive, you're able to approach the relationship with renewed openness, free from lingering resentment. This openness invites deeper connection and trust, enriching your relationship rather than allowing past grievances to erode it. In the same way, when we forgive someone who may not even be in our lives anymore, we allow ourselves to move forward without bitterness. This newfound space within becomes fertile ground for love, peace, and joy, emotions that cannot thrive in the presence of resentment. After practicing forgiveness for some time, I began to notice a lightness within myself. People I once avoided due to resentment no longer triggered the same reaction in me. This freedom didn't depend on them changing or apologizing. It was a gift I had given myself by choosing peace over anger. Forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing practice that requires repetition and patience. Each time you let go of resentment, no matter how small, you strengthen your ability to forgive. And each time you forgive, you weaken the power of anger and bitterness within you. Forgive in layers. Forgiveness often comes in layers. You may think you've let go of something only for old feelings to resurface later. This is natural. Forgive each layer as it arises, knowing that this process takes time and that each step brings you closer to inner peace. Reflect on the benefits of forgiveness. Remind yourself of the freedom and lightness that forgiveness brings. Reflecting on its positive impact reinforces your commitment to this practice, especially when resentment feels tempting. Seek compassion. Over-resolution. You may not receive an apology or explanation for past wrongs. Forgiveness doesn't depend on the other person's actions. It's a gift you give yourself. Focus on cultivating compassion rather than needing closure from the other person. In the words of the Buddha, "In whom there is no sympathy for living beings, know him as an outcast." This teaching emphasizes the importance of compassion as a fundamental quality of inner peace. Forgiveness is an expression of this compassion, a conscious choice to let go of harm and embody kindness. In the journey of practicing unconditional love, forgiveness plays a vital role. It's a bridge between hurt and healing, allowing us to transcend pain and embrace peace. When we forgive, we embody the essence of love that Buddhism teaches, a love that frees rather than binds, a love that heals rather than harms. Each act of forgiveness brings us closer to the peace we seek, not because it changes the past, but because it releases the past's hold on our present. This process allows us to open our hearts fully, enabling love and compassion to flourish. In forgiving others and ourselves, we make space for a deeper, more unconditional form of love. Forgiveness, as the Buddha taught, is not just about releasing others from blame. It's about liberating ourselves from the prison of anger and bitterness. By practicing forgiveness, we choose peace over resentment, creating a space within where compassion and unconditional love can truly grow. After understanding the journey to pure love, let's take a moment to reflect on its deeper implications. Throughout this exploration of pure love, we've seen that true love, as taught by the Buddha, is not a single act or accomplishment, but a continuous, unfolding journey. It's a path that requires dedication, mindfulness, and an openness to learn and grow with each experience. Love, in its truest form, becomes a way of life, a commitment to compassion that shapes every thought, word, and action. In Buddhism, pure love is often called boundless love because it has no limits or conditions. It's not restricted to specific people, places, or times. Rather, it's a constant state of openness that welcomes all beings into the embrace of our goodwill. This journey toward pure love asks us to approach each person and situation with curiosity rather than judgment, patience rather than haste, and compassion rather than resentment. Each small act of kindness we choose to perform, whether it's a smile to a stranger, forgiveness to someone who has wronged us, or self-compassion during moments of struggle, adds to a larger tapestry of love and compassion. These acts, while seemingly simple, carry the power to transform our lives and the lives of those we touch. Over time, they create a ripple effect, reaching far beyond what we might initially perceive. Imagine for a moment how different the world would feel if more of us approached each day with the intention to spread love in small but consistent ways. This vision begins with each of us, in the small, mindful choices we make. Whether we choose to offer patience in a moment of frustration, to show empathy in place of judgment, or to listen deeply instead of preparing a response, each choice becomes a thread in the tapestry of compassion that connects us all. The Buddha once said, "Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule." This principle captures the heart of Buddhist wisdom on love. It's only through love, not anger or judgment, that true healing and connection can occur. When we respond to hostility with kindness, misunderstanding with empathy, and rejection with acceptance, we allow love to break the cycle of suffering and bring peace instead. When I began this journey, I imagined love as a goal I could reach, a state where I would finally have enough compassion, patience, or understanding. But over time, I realized that love is not something to achieve or finish. Instead, it's a process of continuous learning, each experience shaping our capacity for kindness. With each step on this path, I found that love is something we nurture daily, not something we finally become. This journey to pure love invites us to be gentle with ourselves and others. It reminds us that there will be times of frustration, moments of doubt, and instances where we fall short of our ideals. But these moments, too, are part of the journey. They teach us resilience, patience, and the value of self-compassion. When we view love as an ongoing practice, rather than a destination, we give ourselves permission to be human, to grow, and to experience the beauty of this process without the pressure to be perfect. In practicing pure love, we begin to see beyond individual differences, personal histories, and judgments. Love, in its truest form, is not just about feeling affection or kindness. It's about recognizing the inherent connection we share with all beings. This realization leads us to experience empathy on a deeper level, understanding that just as we seek happiness and avoid suffering, so do all others. When we understand this shared desire, compassion flows naturally. We no longer see others as separate or different from us, but as reflections of ourselves. This shift in perception allows us to approach people with openness and acceptance, creating genuine connections that are free from the constraints of ego or expectation. As we conclude this journey together, here are a few ways to bring the spirit of pure love into everyday life. Practice. Mindful presence. Whether you're with family, friends, or even strangers, give them your full attention. Listen deeply, without planning your response or forming judgments. This presence is an act of love that fosters real connection. Show small acts of kindness. Offer kindness without expecting anything in return. It might be as simple as holding a door open, offering a warm smile, or giving someone your time. These small acts create ripples of compassion that touch others in ways we may never see. Reflect on compassion in daily situations. At the end of each day, take a few moments to reflect on how you shared love, patience, or empathy with others. If there were times you struggled, recognize them without judgment and consider how you might approach similar situations differently next time. Cultivate self-compassion. Remember that pure love also includes love for yourself. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a dear friend. When we are gentle with ourselves, we have more capacity to extend that gentleness to others. As I practiced these small acts of love daily, I noticed how they changed my inner world. My thoughts became softer, my reactions more patient, and my relationships more open. I realized that the real transformation wasn't just in the actions themselves, but in the intention behind them. The desire to live a life rooted in compassion. The journey toward pure love is a lifelong path that continually asks us to open our hearts, to forgive, to understand, and to embrace each moment with compassion. Through these acts, we create a legacy of love that extends far beyond ourselves, contributing to a world that is kinder, more connected, and more peaceful. The Buddha's wisdom reminds us that love is the only force capable of truly healing the wounds of anger and resentment. By choosing love, we allow peace to take root in our hearts and minds, radiating outward to touch those around us. This peace becomes a gift we offer the world, a small but powerful force that, when shared by many, has the potential to bring about real change. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. This timeless principle serves as a guiding light on our path, reminding us that the choice to love is a choice to heal, to connect, and to create a world where compassion flourishes. As we conclude, remember that pure love is a journey of commitment to compassion, forgiveness, and openness. It's a choice we make each day, a way of living that transforms not only our lives, but also the lives of those around us. With each small act of kindness, we contribute to a larger tapestry of compassion that holds the potential to change our world. Let us walk this path with patience and courage, knowing that in choosing love, we are choosing peace for ourselves and for all beings. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of Buddhist teachings on pure love. Through each concept we explored, letting go of conditions, practicing loving kindness, moving beyond the ego, and embracing forgiveness, we discover that love, in its purest form, is a journey, not a destination. Each step brings us closer to a compassion that is boundless, capable of healing both ourselves and those around us. Pure love, in the Buddhist sense, is a journey, a choice we make every day. Let it be a gift we give freely, a legacy of kindness that ripples outward. If today's exploration has touched you, please like, share, and subscribe to Zen Calm. By doing so, you help share this message of peace and kindness with others who may need it. And now, as promised, stay with us as we dive into a thoughtful Q&A. We'll be reflecting on a question from a friend of Zen Calm, who asked, how do we truly love someone unconditionally, even with their imperfections? This is a powerful question that speaks to the core of the journey we're on together. This question touches on the foundation of Buddhist wisdom, where we seek to love without attachment, without expectations. Many people wonder if it's possible to love purely when our partner, family, or friends may not meet our ideals or may even challenge our sense of patience. So, how do we love in this way? When we say, "I love you more than anything," it's helpful to ask ourselves, what do we truly love about that person? Often, we're drawn to their best qualities, their kindness, beauty, sense of humor, or support. But is that all we love? The Buddhist approach invites us to love more than just these attributes, focusing instead on a deeper understanding and acceptance. Buddhist teachings remind us that when we love someone solely for their good qualities, that love might falter if those qualities fade or change. However, when we love with awareness of both their strengths and flaws, we're creating a resilient connection. True love is less about perfection and more about embracing a person fully, without letting expectations or conditions stand in the way. Think of it like your favorite dish. You might love it, even if it has a few minor imperfections, such as a different seasoning or garnish than you prefer. You enjoy the experience because you value the whole meal. Similarly, in love, embracing the entirety of a person, imperfections included, is what fosters a deeper bond. Buddhism encourages us to look beyond our desires and expectations. By approaching love from a place of acceptance rather than attachment, we cultivate a compassionate, unconditioned love, one that doesn't depend on our partner meeting our every need or fulfilling every expectation. This love is resilient, free, and generous. In loving unconditionally, we find peace within ourselves and extend that peace to others. This form of love is both a gift and a lifelong journey. It teaches us to accept others as they are, not as we wish them to be. And as we practice this, we naturally strengthen our relationships, bringing harmony and compassion into our lives. Thank you to the viewer who shared this insightful question. May this answer bring you closer to peace, love, and acceptance. If you too have a question about mindfulness, relationships, or living with compassion, please feel free to share it with us. And to everyone joining us today, if you found this journey into unconditional love meaningful, we invite you to like, share, and subscribe to Zen Calm. Let us continue spreading these teachings of peace and compassion together. May your life be filled with happiness, understanding, and the serenity we all seek in our journey.